Then you spiral because you feel guilty, and then you're on LinkedIn looking at jobs because you're wondering if you can even manage yourself. Take a breath, close out LinkedIn. You were fine 2 weeks ago, you'll be fine in another 2 weeks. Hey guys, it's Caitlin. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the personality traits that I think you actually need to be successful as an entrepreneur. And these personality traits don't include grit, determination, the need to grind. These are going to be the ones that actually helped me be the successful entrepreneur that I am today. People will tell you that in order to be a business owner, you have to have grit, you have to be determined, and you have to know how to grind. When I started my business, I hated hearing these things. I hated hearing that I had to have grit and be determined, and it sounded so harsh to me, and it went against my natural tendencies. If I purposely grinded, if I was purposely determined, and if I tried to have grit and power through, I was not being myself. The freedom with entrepreneurship and being a business owner is that you can be 100% yourself, and you can run your business 100% how you want to, and with the company culture, even if it's just yourself, with the company culture that you want. As a business owner, I have noticed that there are some traits within myself that have kept me in business, and without them, I definitely wouldn't be as successful as I am now. There's a few on this list that I have not heard anywhere else, and there are a few that are on this list that you may have heard elsewhere, but I am giving you a different perspective to them. Actually, all of these traits can be learned. So I was not born with them, and nobody else in this world is born with them. And I know that for a fact because they are all learned traits. And you can learn them too. The first personality trait that I learned very early on is humbleness. And I know it's a crazy one to start with, and probably not one that you actually want to hear, but I learned it very early on, and I think it's going to be helpful for everyone. And I don't mean humble in the sense that you aren't the smartest person in the room. I mean humble in the sense that you have to humble yourself to yourself. There's really two ways that you become an entrepreneur. Either you plan for it or you don't. And in my case, I didn't. But I knew my business was going to pay for my lifestyle very soon. I just needed some time. So what did I do? I became a substitute teacher. I knew that I enjoyed working with children and had worked with children in the past, and that my bills needed to get paid. And if I were not humble enough to take up a part-time job that maybe did not justify my education, or maybe did not justify the salary that I thought I deserved, then I would have racked up so much credit card debt and probably ended up borrowing money from my parents just until my business got off the ground. But because I was willing to cut excess spending and essentially take up a part-time job until I got consistent business, I felt comfortable taking the risk that I needed to in my business that ultimately led to me leaving that job within 3 weeks. By being humble, I was able to create a safety net for myself so that I had something to fall back on and something to really trust my business with so that I could take those risks. The next personality trait that really helped me was patience, and I want to use patience and forgiveness interchangeably. Having the patience to give yourself time to learn and forgiving yourself for mistakes that you make along the way. When you are your own boss, you don't have the manager to teach you the ropes. It's all try and fail until something works. You can't beat yourself up when things aren't going as planned, because as harsh as it sounds, nobody's going to be there to pick you up, and very few people are going to understand exactly what you are going through. And the people that you may currently confide in and trust, they may not really know what you're going through as an entrepreneur or as a solo entrepreneur. That is a very specific and unique set of problems. So as a leg off of this personality trait, you do have to be your own biggest cheerleader. You have to be able to encourage yourself to keep going. The most connected I have been to my faith and closest to God has been as an entrepreneur. I mean, just fully trusting that if I had just finished paying for grad school, got laid off from my second job ever, and now diving into the deep end of entrepreneurship, that, and also having a part-time job, as I mentioned earlier, that it was all for something. I prayed a lot when I first started my business, and I journaled a lot. I journaled as I was learning from mentors, as my business was going well, and on the days that I felt really unsure about my path. On the days I felt, and even to this day feel discouraged, I like to look through my journal and look at the different entries that I made on the lessons that I was learning from my mentors and the affirmations that I wrote for myself. And in those early days, I was so excited. And even on the days when I journal today about how excited I am for the growth trajectory of my business, I like to look back at when I was being my own hype man and being my own cheerleader. And that is where I get a lot of my inspiration from. So a lot of times you hear people talk about, oh, try to connect to your inner child, but sometimes it's about connecting to the you that you were maybe a month ago when you first started this endeavor. Earlier, I mentioned how entrepreneurship is all try and fail until something works, but I don't believe that the only way to success is through the mud, and I wouldn't say that my journey is lined with failures. And this is largely in part because I learn from others when I can. Family, friends, people from YouTube, entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs, books. When we can learn from the mistakes of others, we can avoid them in our own life. And not to say that you won't make mistakes, because you definitely will, and I definitely do, but you don't necessarily repeat those mistakes in the exact same way, and you are offered a different set of problems to solve that you may solve the first time around, or you may make a mistake and you don't solve them the first time around. But that is where patience and forgiveness starts to kick in. So you are not immune to mistakes. You will learn. You will be okay. The next personality trait that really helped me in my entrepreneurship journey is accountability. And this one is twofold. So one is accountability to your work, and the other is accountability in learning. So we'll start with the first one. Hold yourself accountable in work. And this one seems pretty basic, but sometimes it takes a little bit to kick in. Entrepreneurship is so fun. You get to pick your own schedule and only work when you want to work, and then come the days when you don't really feel like working. So it's easy. You just take the day off because you control your own schedule, right? So you take the day off, and then you decide that you don't really want to work on Fridays. And then the weekend comes, and now you need a break from the Rager weekend. So now you're not working Mondays either. And then you decide that you need a self-care day. So you have a self-care day, and then wait, you need a day for your hobbies. So you take off another day for your hobbies, and then you realize it's been a week and you haven't worked. Then you spiral because you feel guilty, and then you're on LinkedIn looking at jobs because you're wondering if you can even manage yourself. Take a breath, close out LinkedIn. You were fine 2 weeks ago, you'll be fine in another 2 weeks. At one point, this was me. So I set systems in place to manage myself. Keeping everything in your head is not a good system, especially when you have multiple projects and clients to manage. So I highly recommend that you invest in a project management software. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money. It can literally be Notion. I like to use ClickUp, and I recommend ones that have a Kanban board. So Kanban boards have been the easiest way for me to manage projects. Then for keeping track of my schedule, I put everything in my color-coded Google Calendar, and I have both my personal activities and my work activities. And my Google Calendar connects to an app called Structured that I have on my phone. And Structured has an hour-by-hour ideal day that I actually follow. So I literally went into ChatGPT and I told it the clients that I have, how many hours I want to spend on each client, and then also how much time I want to spend on admin work. And then after that, I say, okay, I want this amount of time for hobbies. I'm not working on the weekends, and I need to spend this much time on my morning routine, and I need to like wash my hair like once a week. I have to do my nails every 2 weeks. It gets very granular, but it's really helpful for me because then when I wake up, I don't have to think about what am I going to do for the day. All I have to do is just follow that schedule, and no time gets wasted. You may not need to be this detailed, but I know myself, and I know that I work really well within structure. And I don't like a lot of chaos, and chaos stresses me out. So by having a set template for each day, I don't have to waste time on thinking, what should I do for today? What client should I work on? Because that will literally take 2 hours before I actually get anything done. So I hold myself accountable by having a Kanban board for each client and by having a set daily schedule. The second half of accountability is holding yourself accountable to learning more. As a business owner, you hear that you should want to be an authority in your niche and be number one, which is great. But if you get to the top and then you stop, 2, 3, 4 will all pass you by. So you have to continue getting better and better. And this can be for your product, your service, or your own personal knowledge. In one of my last videos, I laughed at how much my website had changed over the years and how much my business has changed over the years. But what I now realize in the last week or so is that I was constantly learning. So the business that I started at 17 is different from the business that I went full-time with at the end of 2023. And even that business is a little different than the business that I run today. It has evolved over time into something greater and more stable as I continue to learn. And while we can all get a good laugh at going on the Wayback Machine and looking at how my website has changed over the months and over the years, there is something that we can learn from this. If your business is not what you want it to be in terms of how fulfilling it is or how much revenue it is bringing in, yet it looks the same as it did a year ago, you are going to fall from your number one position if you haven't already. You have to evolve over time. You have to continue learning, and your business has to continue getting better and better to stay number one. You have to continue learning how your industry is changing, how interests are changing, what is new, what is phasing out. You can read books, you can listen to podcasts, watch a YouTube video. As your customers, the goal is to get as many opinions as possible, and not so you can agree or disagree, but so that you know what's going on and you can choose your path forward. What you want to avoid is working in a silo. You want to be able to pivot if you need to. And the key word here is want. If you don't know what's going on, then you will not be able to pivot. You will not have the opportunity to, because everything is going to happen so fast. I'm sure we can all think of businesses that got left just because they would not evolve. For some reason, they were not learning and looking at what was happening around them, and they did not get with the program. They did not get with the program, and they got left behind. The last personality trait that I have for you guys is play. And this one actually works in reverse. So this word, play, actually taught me accountability. When I first started my business, I would work every day of the week, Monday through Sunday. And I would only take a few hours out of the week for myself. And that is not sustainable. Even in a 9 to 5, you get a lunch break, and it's only 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So before work, you have your free time. After work, you have your free time. On the weekends, you have your free time. Even in school, you get a lunch break and you get recess. You get time to go play. When school is over, you go play. Play is crucial. It is where our brain gets a break and it gets the opportunity to be creative and solve other problems. And sometimes not even real problems, but it's also another opportunity for it to gain other perspectives. It's like a horse with its blinders taken off. You get to look up and see what else is out there. And then when you come back to work, you have a fresh perspective, you have new ideas and different ways to apply them, and you're actually excited to apply them. It sounds funny that I had to learn how to play, but what it really meant is that I had to learn to take time for myself away from work and not do things that were adjacent to work. So not going and reading a book on business or reading a book on marketing, or it actually meant doing something else that did not progress my business in any way. And actually, by doing that, I was able to progress my business. So you should have hobbies and have things to do outside of work and on the weekends. This taught me accountability because when I got into a relationship, my weekends immediately became packed, and I had to learn that, okay, you can't work Monday through Sunday. That's not going to work. So now we have to work Monday through Friday. So we have set hours for work and dedicated time to play. And just like how distance makes the heart grow fonder, the same applies to work. You'll find that when you start to take little breaks from work, and not just your lunch break or not just a snack break or not just a break to go to HEB, I mean a proper break, like you are resting, you are recharging, you are doing your hobbies, you will find that you're coming back to your work recharged, energized, and ready to pour those fresh perspectives and ideas and energy into your work instead of running on fumes all the time. I will agree with the statement that being an entrepreneur is not for the weak, but by being humble, having patience, being accountable, and playing, make grinding, being determined, having grit feel much more natural and less like you are acting as an entrepreneur and playing the role of an entrepreneur. It will feel more innate. It's a much softer and more sustainable approach to entrepreneurship. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe so that I know you like videos like this, and I'll see you next time.